It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. One major aspect I truly appreciate about my country is the fact that we actually have a First Amendment for the issue of free speech. When you look at laws for European countries, for many Asian countries, and other kind of countries in the world, you may notice that not many of them actually protect speech like we do. As a matter of fact, for the case of European countries, I have noticed that many of them have direct limitations when it comes down to issues like hate speech. Now, that's one thing that I really appreciate about my country, largely, because we can express ourselves without direct persecution of the state for fully expressing ourselves, as long as not necessarily incitement to violence, or you can say defamation, or some kind of issue along those lines. We can fully express ourselves without any type of persecution directly from the state. However, there has been recent events that I've seen so far this week that caught my eye that I want to actually talk about for this particular video, largely because these kind of issues actually attack the very core foundation of our nation. And so without further hesitation, let's begin with the stories.
Public records requests that I have open right now that are, quote, pending legal review that I am entitled to request.
I've got to interrupt you here because...
Okay, are you going to stop the timer?
This is the public meeting forum that you agree to when you speak, and I want to read this to you, that there are oral communications during the city council meeting may not be used to lodge charges or complaints against any employee of the city or members of the body, regardless of whether such person is identified in the presentation by the name or by any other reference that tends to identify him or her.
That's all fine, well and good, but that's a violation of my First Amendment rights.
So this is your warning, okay?
Warning for what?
A warning for attacking the city attorney personally.
This is all factual information.
It doesn't matter.
You're violating my First Amendment rights.
This is what you agree to when you first speaking. This is the form.
It is unconstitutional, Mayor Hall.
Well, it's not unconstitutional.
It is.
And if you're
the Supreme Court has upheld. I could get up here and I could swear at you for 3 straight minutes, and it is protected speech by the Supreme Court. It is.
No, you can't.
Why don't you look at case law?
No, you can't.
I can.
So if you want to be
also the chair is engaged in a debate. So
do you
point
want
of
to be
order.
escorted out of here? Do you want to be escorted out of here?
You're violating my First Amendment rights.
Talking.
You are violating my First Amendment rights.
That's your opinion.
It's not a matter of opinion.
Do you want to be escorted out, Miss Massie? Because that's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen in the future also. Anytime you attack
That's why you changed the rules.
Or any
That's why you changed the rules.
This has been on the back of this form.
I understand, Mayor Hall, but that is completely unconstitutional.
No, it's
You're
not.
Also engaging in debate, and so you should actually be yielding the floor to somebody else managing.
Chief, could you have somebody come down here and escort Ms. Massey out?
Really? Is that necessary?
Chamber? Yes, I think it is.
In front of my 10-year-old daughter, you're going to escort me out for expressing my First Amendment rights.
She can go with you.
I'm not leaving.
Well.
Need you to sit down with me.
I'm expressing my first. Do not touch me. Do not put your hands on me.
You just step out with me.
Do not put your hands on me.
Come on out.
Do not put your hands on me.
Come out with me now before you get arrested. Do you understand?
Are you detaining me?
Yes.
Why am I being detained? Under what charges? Under what charges?
Okay, so
I have personal property. Hold on. You cannot contact me.
Yeah, I know. She can go out there. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to go into E-session.
Motion to go into E-session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're going into E-session.
As you guys saw just a minute ago, one of the main individuals who was actually the mayor of Surprise, Arizona, is known as Skip Hall. And Skip Hall, we have no idea what exactly is his party or what kind of affiliation he actually has. But unfortunately, he was the one that sent security against that particular woman within the video. And for those that have no idea what exactly was the woman that was escorted in the video, Her name is Rebekah Massie. And so if you guys want to support this particular individual, she had created a fundraiser to actually collect funds for this particular case. As you guys saw in the video, one of the main argumentations that Miss Rebekah has made was that the mayor was violating her First Amendment right. And so is it actually true that it's actually a violation of the First Amendment according to court cases that we know so far? Back in 1964, there was a case that was known as the New York Times versus Sullivan. Now, according to this particular case, it states right here that the United States Supreme Court decision ruled that freedom of expression protections in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution restrict the ability of public officials to sue for defamation. The decision held that if a person in a defamation lawsuit is a public official or candidate for public office, then not only must they prove the normal elements of defamation, publication of false defamatory statements to a third party, they must also prove that the statement was made in actual malice, meaning that the defendant either knew the statement was false or actively discarded whether it might be false. So based upon what I just read out loud, the action against Miss Rebekah is clearly anti-constitutional. The second major story comes directly from Facebook when Mark Zuckerberg published this letter back on August the 26th of this year. It says right here that in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our team for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decisions, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. I'm not necessarily surprised about this, and the main reason I'm not surprised is largely because there was actually something that was known as the Disinformation Board. This board was founded back in April the 27th, 2022, and dissolved back in August the 24th, 2022. I'm really concerned about this particular issue largely because the fact that a government is dictating to a multi-million-dollar company what speech is actually okay or not okay, that right there is scary. Like, why should the government dictate what is false information or disinformation? Because the thing about that kind of word, like false information or disinformation, is that some things that people say was false almost always turn out to be true. For example, there were some people who were questioning about things like the vaccines and how they might be health things that are not necessarily good for like the vaccines. For example, like, the case of having some sort of blood clots after taking the COVID-19 vaccines. And it turns out to be true, but back then they were trying to silence it because they did not like that narrative. And so we cannot necessarily trust government to dictate to us what is misinformation or not misinformation, because again, some stuff almost always become true. And this kind of tactic reminds me so much about what they do for the case of Venezuela, what they do for China, about cases about government censorship over stuff on the internet.
To push back on this, there's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
When I saw that video directly from Tom Walz about the whole entire issue about misinformation, I couldn't help but to think that maybe once him and Kamala Harris get into power, they'll probably bring it back again and try to shut down more speech judging from that whole entire comment when he says that this information is not necessarily free speech. And so I'm really concerned about the whole entire issue about the Democrats. They claim to be for democracy, right? But their actions almost always show the opposite. For example, they went out their way to, cheat the elections for the case of Jill Stein, for the case of Robert Kennedy, for the case of Bernie Sanders at least 2 different times. Now for Kamala Harris, during the primaries, nobody actually voted for her. Not one bit. Yet for some strange reason, she is running for the presidential nomination for this year's election. But they don't actually care about the democracy. It's one thing to actually care about democracy and have democratic principles, and another thing where you actually, say you're for democracy but do the exact opposite. It reminds me so much about the tactics for the case of North Korea. They call themselves the democratic state of North Korea, but their actions like the opposite of the democratic actions of North Korea. So, so I don't understand, why they would play these kind of word games every single time they get caught on something. But what do you guys think about these stories? Tell me in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.